والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. We begin by praising, thanking and glorifying Allah Rabbul Izzati wal Jalal, and we send our salutations upon the noble messenger Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Alhamdulillah, we have been blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we can carry on with the 40 hadith of Imam Nawawi, and today we go through the 7th hadith. This hadith it can be named Ad-Dinun Nasiha. That is what the hadith starts with and is the central theme of the hadith, that religion is nasiha. It can be translated as advice, but nasiha more correctly in the context of this hadith would be translated as sincerity, inshallah. So to start with the hadith, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. عن أبي رقية تميم بن أوس الداري رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: الدين النصيحة. قلنا: لمن؟ قال: لله ولكتابه ولرسوله ولأئمة المسلمين وعامتهم. رواه مسلم. The meaning of this hadith, Abu Ruqayya, Tamim ibn Aus al-Dari, one of the Sahaba, may Allah be pleased with them, he said that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said that the religion is nasiha, sincerity. And we said, the Sahaba, we replied, we said, to whom? Yeah, who is it advised to? Who should we advise? And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam replied by saying, to Allah, to his book, to his messenger, to the leaders of the Muslims, and to their common folk. Now, just looking at the hadith just like that, or looking at the translation just like this, you may not fully understand what does it mean by nasiha, what does it mean by sincerity. So let us go through the explanation and we can inshallah find out. So the ulama have said that this hadith is very comprehensive. It encompasses the entire religion, just like they mentioned about the hadith of Jibreel, the second hadith. So too they said about this hadith, that this hadith is also very comprehensive. It encompasses the entire deen. Some of the ulama have told us that if we lose all of the ahkam of Islam, all of the rulings of Islam, then this hadith, it's enough to bring back at least 1/4 of all of these ahkam. Subhanallah bihamdi. Because of the number of ahkam, the rulings, the legal rulings, the shari'i rulings that can be derived from this hadith. So at least 1/4 of Islam can be brought back just by this one hadith, subhanallah. Ibn al-Athir, one of the Salaf, he says that nasiha is a word that is used to describe a sentence, right? The word nasiha, it is used to describe an entire sentence. So just by saying it's advice or it's sincerity, it doesn't really give the full meaning. So what do we have to do? It means, right? And this sentence that nasiha refers to, it is that you want good for the thing that you're giving nasiha to. Like whoever you're giving nasiha to, you want good for that. And so it's impossible to explain nasiha in one word. This is the words of Imam Ibn al-Athir. Now, nasiha in the Arabic language, right? The linguistic meaning, it is to purify something, right? Nasaha, to purify something. And to gather that which is scattered, it's another meaning, right? When you gather different things that are all over the place, you get them all together, you put them in one specific place, keeping them safe. This is also called nasiha. And we know that nasiha is one of the great and noble qualities of all of the prophets alayhimus salatu wassalam. Now, we carry on talking about nasiha. And a summary of nasiha, as we've just mentioned, is to want good for whatever you're giving nasiha to. So to want good for someone with a sincere heart yourself. You yourself maintain sincerity when you're giving this nasiha. And this heart, your heart, when it's sincere, it should be free from defects, free from deficiencies, and you should want all the good for this particular person or thing, right? You shouldn't just be doing something half-heartedly, right? Maybe, maybe not, or something like that. You should be, maintaining full commitment to that person. I will do everything I can to advise you in the best possible manner because I want the best for you. Now, and when the companions, they replied straight away, yeah, they heard Prophet ﷺ say something, but immediately they realized, it needs a bit more explanation, clarification. We want to understand better. So they asked, Ya Rasulullah, to whom? And it shows how eager they were. They jumped straight away. They're asking, who is it, Ya Rasulullah? We want to know, we want to understand better. They wanted to implement this knowledge, so they wanted to know how they can implement it. So they asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and of course Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam then replied. And this hadith, we should say, focuses on al-nasiha, advice or sincerity. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says the entire religion, right, ad-deenu an-nasiha. All of the religion is encompassed by nasiha, right? And the main pillar of this religion is that it remains sound, it remains firm, it remains healthy, right? So if this nasiha is also sound and firm and healthy, then you will find that the entire deen, the entire religion is sound and firm and healthy. Nasiha, usually, as we said, we translate it as advice, but doesn't transfer or convey the true meaning, the actual meaning of the word, right? So if we use sincerity, it's a little bit closer, and the entire religion is encompassed, surrounded by, or includes sincerity. We already discussed how important sincerity is, especially during the first hadith when we studied about the intentions. Rasulullah ﷺ states in this hadith that nasiha should be given to 5 different categories. Okay, so what are the categories? The reason the hearts are there, because it involves the matters of the heart and to remain sincere. And of course, then you find 5 hearts there also. So nasiha to 5 categories: to Allah, to His book, to His Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, to the leaders of the Muslims, and to the ammatul muslimin, or the common folk, the regular Muslims. Now let's discuss, how can we give nasiha to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How can we give nasiha to Allah? No, you might think it doesn't make sense. Allah is the one that is giving us nasiha and advice and so on. But how can we maintain nasiha to Allah or with Allah? Number one, we purify our hearts for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We do everything for His sake and His sake only. Ikhlas, right? We discussed that already during previous lessons. And how do we do that? We do this by fulfilling the rights of Allah in the best possible way and with ihsan. The hadith number 2 talked about ihsan. So we maintain ihsan as much as possible. Thereafter, we strive as hard as we can in worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and doing more actions of sunnah. If we maintain the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well, this is also nasiha with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because we are doing more of the actions of sunnah, right? Sunnah are the extra actions. We're not referring to the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam here. Rather, Prophet ﷺ, of course, he showed us how to do the actions, but we're referring to the sunnah actions. We have the wajibat, right? The salah, we must pray the 5 times prayers. But then along with those 5 times prayers is the sunnah. So instead of just the 4 for dhuhr, there's 4 before and 2 after. And instead of only 4 for asr, there is 4 before. And only 2 for or 3 for maghrib, there are 2 after. And then 2 more after that can be nafil, and so on and so forth. Then to glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, glorify the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and recognize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us. It's another form of nasiha. To be true to this relationship with Allah as much as we can. Right? We've already mentioned that, fulfilling His rights to the best way possible, but He's emphasized here. And then to do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us to do, to stay away from what He has forbidden and prohibited for us to do. And then to know how to implement the sharia in our own lives. Right? All of this can be nasiha to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, there is much more, but this is a summary, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, a brief. Now, how do you maintain nasiha to the book of Allah? To the book of Allah, this is, of course, referring to the Quran. It also does refer to the other books that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent, but we don't have the true message that those books contained any longer. Those books have been contaminated and polluted with extra information, additions and subtractions and changes. Right? Only the Quran remains firmly and only whole as it was revealed on the tongue of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or on the heart of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We have it on our tongues today. So this is referring to the Quran as we have it today. So we believe that the entire Quran is the speech of Allah Rabbul Izzati wal Jalal. We believe that it was sent down as wahi, as a revelation to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There is no similarity between the speech of Allah and the speech of mankind. Whatever I say, yes, I might be even taking words from the Quran, but it can never compare to the words of Allah Rabbul Izzati wal Jalal. To be pure and sincere in relationship with our Quran, to maintain complete and utter respect for the Quran. And then whenever we call the Quran, we say Al-Quran Al-Azim, Al-Quran Al-Kareem, the Holy Quran, the glorious Quran, and so on and so forth, right? We call the Quran with names that befit it. We love the Quran, we honor the Quran. That honor the Quran doesn't mean that we wrap it up in a beautiful cloth and we keep it safe and sound on my top shelf and never touch it, right? This is not part of honoring. Honoring is to also reciting continuously and so on, right? I will mention that inshallah. And then not just to just read the Quran, but to act upon the Quran, to respect the contents of this Quran, carrying out the commands of this Quran, staying away from the prohibitions that are in this Quran. Similar to how we have nasiha with Allah by following the commands of Allah and staying away from the prohibitions. Similarly with the Quran. And then we explain the Quran to others, right? The hadith of Prophet ﷺ tells us, خَيْرُكُمْ مَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ وَعَلَّمَهُ, that the best amongst you is the one who learns the Quran and then he teaches it, or she teaches it. So to learn the Quran and then teach it to others, this makes us amongst the best of people. And of course it is maintaining nasiha to the book of Allah or with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then of course we're helping other people to understand the beauty of the Holy Quran. We defend the pure, glorious Quran against attacks, right? If someone comes and attacks the Quran, tries to burn the Quran and things like that, we try to defend as much as we can, whatever is within our ability. And then physically, when we are holding the Quran, when we take it in our hands to maintain purity, to maintain wudu, and then to ensure that we ourselves, how do we do, like we practice the Quran, we read our daily wird, we recite our daily wird of the Quran. We mentioned this yesterday about the daily wird, the daily portion of the Quran that you are reciting, whether it's 1 page and 2 pages or 5 pages, or whether for those that have memorized more, half a juz and 1 juz and 2 and 3 juz, whatever it is, to maintain your daily wird of the Quran. Make the Quran your companion. Right? If it's not your companion physically, the physical copy, at least you're reciting it from memory and you're keeping up with your recitations, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And of course, through that, there are many benefits. We find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless us and the Quran's blessings will descend upon us and so on and so forth. And even the Quran is a shifa and a barakah and a rahmah and a guide and a light and so on and so forth. Nasiha to the Messenger of Allah subhanahu ta'ala alayhi salatu wassalam. This is achieved by believing in and obeying the Prophet ﷺ, knowing him, understanding his life, understanding what struggles he went through. So we study the seerah and by doing so, we understand all of that. By loving the Prophet ﷺ more than anything else, even our own selves. Right? The hadith says, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى أكون أحب إليه. Right? None of you will truly believe until I become more beloved to him than his family and his wealth. And the hadith continues. Rejecting any of those that have enmity towards him, and of course defending him alayhi salatu wasalam against any attacks, being loyal to those who give allegiance to him sallallahu alayhi wasallam. This includes all of the Muslims, of course, honoring him and reviving his manners and sunnah. So if we act upon the mannerisms that we find he himself acted with, or his sunnah, the hadith that we find and so on, if we act according to this, right, reviving this in our own lives, then we will find that this is nasiha to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Now, how can we give nasiha, or how can we maintain nasiha with the advice, with the leaders of the Muslims? How can we advise the leaders of the Muslims, or how can we maintain sincerity to the leaders of the Muslims? This involves us making dua for them, right? The leaders of the Muslims, we make dua that Allah guides them. Yeah, I'm not going to go into the politics of some leaders, they're good and some leaders are bad and some are oppressing others and so on. We're not going to go into that right here and now, right? This is not the topic of today's hadith. It involves that we make dua for them. If they are oppressing, right? One of the ways we can help them and maintain nasiha towards them is to make dua for them. And if I can, make my voice heard so that they change what they are doing, this is something I should do. Right? And if they are good, of course, that we pray that Allah guides them, protects them, makes them able to carry out their responsibilities for the good of the Muslims and so on and so forth. Right? To want good for them. Not just to make this dua, but to actually, me, myself, I want good for them. And Allah to guide them towards the truth. If they are already on the truth, that Allah keeps them firm upon the truth. And if they are doing things they're not supposed to be doing, that Allah returns them to this. Because as the leaders of the Muslims, whether we want them to be the leader or not, this is out of the question. Whether we want them to be the leader or not, they are the leader at the moment. So we need to make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides them, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps them guided upon the truth. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's tawfiq. Another way is to correct them if they are wrong, right? We mentioned that already. And Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu himself, as soon as he became Amir al-Mu'mineen, he tells the believers, tells the Mu'minun that I am entrusted with your leadership. As long as I command you to do what Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam have commanded you to do, As long as what I do is within the Quran and within the Sunnah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, obey me. And if I don't, then come to me and let me know what I'm doing. Let me know so that I can fix it. Subhanallah bihamdi. This is Abu Bakr. Of course, he's the best of us. And we don't have the example of Abu Bakr nowadays anymore. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to return our leaders and make them the likes of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Allahumma ameen. And then another way we can maintain nasiha, advice, sincerity with the leaders is to know them, interact with them, get involved in their efforts in a constructive way. Not always just working against them and trying to, delegitimize them and so on and so forth, right? Say that, oh, he doesn't deserve to be the leader and this and that. We should try to get involved in a constructive way. Not just sit back, criticize them and say, oh, they're doing this wrong and that wrong and this wrong and that wrong. Rather, I should try my best to help, to increase or improve things. And if I can't, then I take it a step further and further until we are able to effect some sort of change. This is what we can do. And then to love and respect the scholars as well, the ulama, by the way, and not just search for their mistakes, whatever they're doing wrong. And we need to trust the ulama, right? The ulama, the scholars, they are also included in the category, the leaders of the Muslims. It doesn't just mean the political leaders, but also the ulama, they are the leaders amongst the Muslims. It could be the local imam or the mufti and so on, right? It could be the mufti of the country if there is something like that there. These would also be included in the leaders of the Muslims. What about nasiha, sincerity, or advice to the Muslim people, to the general populace, right? To the lay people, lay persons. In general, it means to give them advice, right? This one actually does mean to actually advise the people. Rasulullah, he says that the rights of a believer over another believer are 6, right? And then he mentioned one of them, that if he asks you for advice, then you give him advice, you advise him. Giving nasiha, it involves guiding people towards that which will make their affairs better, both in the dunya and the akhirah as well. So if someone asks you, about something that will improve their life here in this world, about business, for example, or about which school shall I send my children to? Is this a good school, or would you recommend a different school? Something like that. This is also sincere advice that you give to that person because you want the best for that person, to remove envy, jealousy, hatred from our hearts. And then if they ask you, okay, if I did for example, today someone asked me that I'm going for Umrah, I'm in Mecca right now, and then, I'm with my family, I have my children with me. So then if we want to do the Umrah, and then afterwards we want to take a rest, we want to pray the Taraweeh prayer, and then we want to do the Sa'i. Is this possible? Is this allowed? Right? So, asking about matters of the deen, of the religion, matters that will gain us reward, matters of the akhirah. So then, of course, I advised, I said, look, it is possible, it is fine. There is no harm in, taking a break between your tawaf and your sa'i. As long as you finish your tawaf, not done 2 rounds of tawaf and then you go and do something else, you come back. No, you finish the tawaf and then, just as an example, I brought this anyway, to advise them in the matters of this dunya and the akhirah as well. Then to protect these people from harm, right? To protect the general people from harm yourself. If you can, if you know there's danger coming, you protect them from harm. You help them when they are in need. At the moment, Ahlul Gaza, they are in dire need. We do whatever we can to help them. And we provide what is beneficial for the people. Right? If I know that this will benefit this person, I show them the way. I say, do this instead of doing it like that. Or I show them what is benefiting to them, what they will be able to benefit from. Then I encourage them to do good and forbid them from evil. Right? Surah Al-Asr talks about this concept that we encourage others towards the haqq, towards good. This by default, by encouraging someone to good, this means that we try to forbid them from evil as well. And of course, we do this with kindness, with sincerity, with full ikhlas. We love for them what we love for ourselves, and we hate for them what we hate for ourselves. The hadith says, لا يؤمن أحدكم, none of you will truly believe حتى تحب لأخيه ما تحب لنفسه. Until you love for your brother, of course your sisters are included in this as well, what you love for yourself. If I myself love a certain thing and I want to do that, I will love that for my own brother, for my own sister. Right? If I myself hate that something should happen to me, I should also hate this for others. If I hate that people should be envious towards me, then I should hate to be envious towards others. And then, of course, it also includes respect for the elders and mercy for the youngsters. The hadith again mentions that we should, laysa minna, he is not amongst us. Who is not from amongst us, amongst the Muslims? Man la yuwaqqiru kabirana ويرحم صغيرنا. The one that does not respect the elders, have honor and venerates the elders, and shows mercy towards the youngsters. Now, there are some benefits that we can take from this hadith, and I know it seems like we're coming to the end of this, but don't worry, we will take another hadith today, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Some benefits or action points that we can take from this hadith is firstly that we ourselves are eager to seek more knowledge. Just like the Sahaba, they as soon as they heard Rasulullah say something, they implemented it straight away. And if they didn't understand, they asked him to explain, Ya Rasulullah, how do we maintain this, or how do we do this? And then so we should also seek to be eager, seeking knowledge, implementing whatever we learn, just like the Sahaba did so. Then we give nasiha. And of course, we understand that nasiha, sincerity, or the nasiha that is mentioned here, giving advice and maintaining this sort of nasiha, it's an integral part. It is an essential part of Islam. If we lose this nasiha, then our Islam would not be 100% fully complete. How do we do that? We study more about Allah, about the Quran, about the seerah, and so on and so forth. We never abandon the Quran. Right? You find this concept mentioned in the tafsir of Surah Al-Furqan, ayah number 30. You can look into that in your own time, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. That can be homework, inshallah, at the last session that we have today, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, in Ramadan. And then something else that we need to make sure that we don't do is looking down or belittling a ruling that has been decided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or a hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. If we look down upon any of these rulings, this is not maintaining nasiha with that. Another way we can maintain nasiha, or something that we can do, action point, right, is that whenever we mention or we hear mention of the Prophet, we say always sallallahu alayhi wasallam, or we say alayhi salatu wasalam, or we say Allahumma salli wa sallim ala nabiyyina Muhammad. Right? In whichever way you want to say it, it's fine, but to maintain salutations upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the hadith says that the one who hears my name being mentioned and he does not respond by saying sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, then he has been I can't forget the exact wording of the hadith, but something along the lines of like miserly or something like that. Subhanallah bihamdi. So it's not something very good. When we hear the name of the Prophet, we should always maintain with we should always maintain, and we should say alayhi salatu wassalam wa sallallahu alayhi wasallam. We need to improve on our own attitude towards our leaders, towards our ulama, right? Then Abu Bakr, we understand that he wasn't better than everyone else because of his own actions, right? Not because of just what he did. Of course, he was better in terms of his actions as well, but not just because of his actions, but his love for Allah and his nasiha to the creation of Allah. This is what made him better than everyone else, right? The famous incident is when Rasulullah he asked, at the Fajr prayer, right? Early in the morning at Fajr prayer, he's asking, okay, Ya Sahaba, who amongst you has visited the sick today? Nobody raises their hand. Abu Bakr, he's the one that puts his hand up. Who is the one that has given sadaqah today? Nobody raises their hand. Abu Bakr puts his hand up. Who is the one that has followed the janazah today? And I believe Abu Bakr also raised his hand for that. So, this is also all before the Salat al-Fajr. Subhanallah bihamdi. And this shows that he was the best in terms of his actions, but because he cared for everyone else so much. And this is, of course, why he was the first Amir al-Mu'mineen after the death of the Prophet ﷺ. So if we implement all of this nasiha to Allah, to his book, to his messenger, to the leaders of the Muslim, and to the common folk, then we will be able to achieve this nasiha in our own lives. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for tawfiq. Allahumma ameen. If we move on now, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, to the next hadith, it talks about the sanctity of a Muslim, عرض المسلم. The hadith says, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم, عن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما أن الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: أمرت أن أقاتل الناس حتى يشهدوا أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمدا رسول الله ويقيموا الصلاة ويؤتوا الزكاة فإذا فعلوا ذلك عصموا مني دماءهم وأموالهم إلا بحق الإسلام وحسابهم على الله تعالى. رواه البخاري ومسلم. Another beautiful hadith, but it's a very misunderstood hadith, right? Some people use this hadith as a justification for senseless violence and killing and so on and so forth, right? They say that this is jihad, but we're going to go into the explanation of this. On the authority of Ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with them both. We say both because Abdullaah ibn Umar himself and Umar radiallahu anhu, they were both Sahaba. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that I have been commanded to fight against the people until they testify that there is none worthy of worship except Allah, and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the Messenger of Allah, and until they establish the Salah and they pay the Zakah. If they do this, then they will have gained the protection from me, for their lives and their property. Their lives and their property will be safe, except in accordance to the right of Islam. Right? Sometimes Islam could come and take away a person's life or a person's property, and their reckoning will be with Allah the Almighty. We're going to explain all of this, don't worry, inshallah. It might not be 100% clear. The last part is very clear. Their reckoning, their hisab is with Allah the Almighty. They will be judged for their actions in front of Allah, of course. And of course, we find Al-Bukhari and Muslim both have narrated this hadith. So to introduce this hadith, Rasulullah he mentions this hadith with many different wordings on many different occasions to show how important it is. The majority of the scholars of the ulama, they say that the people here in this hadith, it refers to the mushrikun of the Arabs. And the same interpretation can be found in the Quran in Surah An-Nasr, إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحِ. So what does fight mean, right? Who are the people? When is it supposed to take place? How are we supposed to go about to this sort of fight, or this uqatil, right? This qital. And what about fasting and pilgrimage? We find that if somebody maintains shahada and salah and zakah, right? But there's no mention of sawm and hajj in this hadith. The 5 pillars, right? 3 are mentioned, the other 2 are not. What about all of that? The questions that are left, and then we can explain this, in the tafsir of the hadith. So in this hadith, we learn why we fight, when it is permissible for the blood of a Muslim to be spilt. And Rasulullah he tells us that I have been ordered. This means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordered him. When Rasulullah is ordered to do a certain thing, who can be a higher authority than Rasulullah? It is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordered this. So this hadith is quite serious. It's something very important for us to learn, for us to understand. Excuse me. It is very important for us to understand, because if Muhammad is being ordered, commanded to do a certain thing, then we too have to follow this command as well. Now the people, right? Excuse the image here. That is the only suitable image I could find there. In any case, what does it mean when he says to fight the people? This is one of the most controversial, as we already said. It's very, very controversial, very misunderstood part of this hadith. So some people, they say that, okay, it refers to all of the people and we have to do jihad against the entire world until they become Muslim, right? We're not denying the concept of jihad, by the way, and we'll come to jihad. There is a slide only speaking about jihad here. But based on the context of the life of Rasulullah, right, and the actions of the Sahaba after him and the Tabi'un after him and all of the generations that came after, right, this hadith, we understand that it doesn't refer to all of the people. Did Rasulullah fight every single person? Right? He had treaties with the Jews, did he not? Right? Until they did act treacherously against the Muslims, then he did fight them. Of course he did. Right? We're not denying any of that. But initially, when he came to Medina, right, he had treaties with them. And then when the Sahaba were sent, some of them, or were given permission, I should say, to migrate to Abyssinia, to Habasha, did they live there and do a jihad, a fight against the people there, against the Christians that were allowing them to live in their land peacefully and so on, right? For even years after the Hijrah, even though the Muslims were safe and sound in Medina, right? For a few years, Rasulullah didn't call them back. He said, you stay there. You keep worshipping Allah there. You give some da'wah, here and there. And you worship Allah in that land. So he wasn't commanded, or he did not command them to do jihad over there in that land where the majority of the people are not Muslim. And they are able to live, the Muslims, they're able to practice their religion and live peacefully in that land, right? So we need to take, all of that into context and understand all of that. And we're not negating the jihad, right? The physical fighting, but there is a time and a place and a context for that. Again, this is not a class about jihad, so we're not going to go into it too in depth, but we will explain it as much as we need to understand the concept properly, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Of course, if there are any questions, I'll try my best to answer them at the end of the class. And if I don't know, or if I am not able to answer that properly, then I will say that as well, that I am not suitably qualified to answer this. Let us ask the ones that would be qualified, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. There were many people, as we said, that Rasulullah didn't fight, and he had peace contracts or peace treaties with these people. And there were also people, after the Muslims had taken over some lands, that they paid jizya, right? They were not Muslims. Rather, they paid this tax to the Muslim state to be protected by the Muslims and to receive the services of the Muslim state, right? Infrastructure services, security services, and so on and so forth, right? So nowadays we have obviously, state taxes in each and every country that we go to. This is considered something similar to that. Of course, it's not considered jizya because even if the leaders are Muslims, even the Muslims are paying this tax, so it's not really considered jizya. But the concept is similar, where it's a tax that is paid to receive benefits from the state, right? The Muslims, why don't they pay jizya? Because they are paying the zakat and the sadaqat, and they are maintaining the Baytul Mal and so on, right? So then they already paying into this, so they don't need to also pay the jizya, because the people who are not Muslims living in a Muslim land, they don't pay their zakat, and they don't pay excuse me, into the Baytul Mal, right? So, you could say it's kind of an equal footing. If everyone is contributing, then everyone, the society will be successful and succeed, will be flourishing, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. We find that Imam Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, rahimahullah, he mentions in his explanation of Sahih al-Bukhari, he did a sharh of Sahih al-Bukhari, he mentions five or six different possibilities about what the people refers to. Right, one of them is that refers to Ahl Kitab. One of them could be, all the people. One of them could be only the Mushrikun. One of them, like this, he mentioned a few different possibilities. One of them could be even Muslims, but they don't practice the things that are mentioned in the Hadith, the salawat and the zakat and so on. So we find one of these examples in the life of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Immediately after Prophet ﷺ passed away, some people they said no, zakat is going to Muhammad ﷺ himself. Right, he's the one that takes the zakat and distributes it. So once he's dead, we don't need to give our zakat anymore. A group of people, they decided they're no longer going to pay the zakat. When Abu Bakr became the leader of the Muslims, he said, no, we need to fight these people because of this narration, because of this hadith. A lot of the Sahaba, they disagreed with him. He said, no, no, no. This hadith, he doesn't refer to people who are Muslims and so on and so forth. Yet he is the Amir al-Mu'mineen. He mobilized the army. Umar himself, radiallahu anhu, he disagreed with him in the beginning. He said, no, I don't agree with you. And by the way, notice here how Abu Bakr, he's the one getting ready to fight. And Umar, the one who's normally hot-headed, the one who is the first to the sword, he's saying, no, let us think about this for a minute. And it doesn't apply to them and so on and so forth. So Umar, it seemed like he was, a bit more calm. But that's not exactly how it is. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was very calm. But he understood the hadith properly in its own context. That if the people, they refuse to pay the zakat, one of the legal obligations upon them by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then no, we have to fight them. And then later on, Umar says that when I saw that Allah has made Abu Bakr so convinced with this opinion, I became convinced because of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. I understood his explanation and I stood by his side. Abu Bakr says that you can't distinguish between these things, between worshipping Allah and between giving the zakat and praying for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? These are all the fundamentals of the faith. If someone denies any of that, they will not be a Muslim. Right? In particular, establishing prayer and paying the zakat because of this hadith, because of this narration. Sawm and Hajj, we said they were not included here. It could be because these are also things that will continue regardless of whether anyone else does it. And these are things that people generally, they don't differ about. They know that when Ramadan comes, you fast, and they know that when the time for Hajj comes, you can afford the Hajj, you must go for your Hajj. People generally do that. But some people, they struggle with their zakat, they don't want to do it. And with the salah, some people, they don't want to pray. And they are inciting others that, oh, if you don't pray, it's okay, you have Islam in your heart and things like this. So it can affect the entire society. Generally, with Sawm and Hajj, people don't, feel like this or have these kind of, ideas. Now, what does it mean by the right of Islam? Right? The hadith, it mentions that their mal and their hayat, their lives and their wealth are safe from me, except with the haqq of Islam, the right of Islam. What does this mean? Right? The haqq of Islam, the right of Islam. Islam sometimes legislates that if someone commits a crime, right, that they are to be punished according to the law, according to the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Someone who steals, they have a punishment. Someone who murders someone else, they are to be put to death. Someone who commits adultery, zina, and so on, they are to be, receive 100 lashes and so on, right? These punishments are set in law, set, according to the had that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed. So when the believers, they establish the prayer, pay the zakat, they gain protection from Allah for their own lives, for their own properties. Their lives will not be taken by the ruler or the army or the police, whoever it may be, and their property will be safe as well. If they commit acts that are punishable in Islam, such as murder, theft, adultery, things like this, then they need to pay for it with their life sometimes, and sometimes with their property. It could be the hand, right? Or it could be in the case of manslaughter, that someone, killed someone unintentionally, that they have to pay a ransom for that person. It's the equivalent of 100 camels, by the way, just in case anyone didn't or know or was curious about that. The ransom for killing a person accidentally is 100 camels. And if you yourself are not rich enough to pay that, then your entire family must come together and pay this on your behalf. And then if you or if your entire family is not able to do that, then the Islamic State should take care of this for you as well. This entire discussion, by the way, right, it revolves around the responsibilities of the Muslim state. Right? That doesn't mean that if someone doesn't give zakah, I can go and start fighting them and start killing them and things like this. That's not what it means at all. Right? My next door neighbor, they don't give the zakat. I know that. I encourage them. My neighbor Ahmed, yalla, come. Let's you need to make sure you give your zakat. I know you're rich. You need to give 2.5% of your wealth and so on. And he says, no, I can't be bothered. I don't want to. I'll give it next year. Things like that. Right? If there was an Islamic State, then they can deal with this. But me myself, my responsibility to him is according to the previous hadith, nasiha, right? Sincerity and sincere advice to him, right? Trying to make him give that in the best way possible. But then to go and slap him or beat him up and fight him, it's not my responsibility. Right? If we are in a Muslim state, then yes, he should be reported to the authorities so that the authorities can come and take care of that. Right, and take the zakat off him, even if it is he doesn't want to give it, but they force him to pay that. Right, this is possible, but individually it does not apply to us in this manner. Right, especially those of us that do not live in an Islamic state, it cannot apply to us in this manner. What does apply to us in this manner? Right, how can we understand what does apply to us and what doesn't? Individually, we said these things don't apply to us, but the statement that is said here, it means that the Muslims are commanded to fight all of mankind, right? If this statement means that we need to fight all of mankind, then yes, it will apply to all of us. But it doesn't apply to all of us. We said already, look at the context of the hadith, right? If we say that this statement, the people, it refers to all of the people in general, Muslims, non-Muslims, the Jews, Christians, polytheists, mushriks, everyone. If that was the meaning of the hadith, then yes, every single one of us must be fighting, making the jihad, right? The physical fight I'm talking about. But if we say that, go back to the context of the hadith, go back to how Rasulullah he lived his life, he dealt with everything, right? So then it doesn't apply to fighting every single person that we meet on the street. Okay, so if the answer is no, as we said, based on what was said before, specifically looking at the life of Rasulullah, it does not apply. However, our da'wah is what applies to each and every single one of us. It is an obligation, it is wajib upon all of us to give da'wah, to disseminate the teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasulullah to each and every single person that we meet. This is wajib upon each and every single one of us. Whatever we know, we share. Even if I have known or learned about one ayah, one hadith, I share that with someone else. This is a must upon me. So, and now on to jihad, right? Specifically talking about jihad, is not only confined to fighting. Jihad doesn't just mean that I'm going to pick up a sword, or nowadays, of course, it will be like a gun or something like that, and fight someone. That's not what jihad, refers to. It can do at some times, but not always, right? When we talk about jihad and nafs and so on and so forth, right? Jihad of yourself, then this is very important to understand the difference and contextualize it, put it into the correct context. Jihad has many unpracticed, or some forms that are weakly practiced. Some people practice them, not everyone practices them, or they're practiced, half and half and not properly. One of these is da'wah, disseminating, spreading the knowledge, right? Educating others, maximizing good, right? If I see something bad, then I try to change that, make it good, right? The hadith says, "Man ra'a minkum munkaran falyughayyirhu biyadihi." The one that sees evil amongst you, then he should change it with his hands. فَإِن لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِلِسَانِهِ. And if he can't change it with his own hands, physically he can't go and change something, he should speak out. He should use his tongue. وَإِن لَمْ تَسْتَطِعْ فَبِقَلْبِهِ وَذَلِكَ أَضْعَفُ الْإِيمَانِ. And if he cannot even do that, then he should hate it in his heart, and that is the weakest form of iman. Right, maximizing the good, minimizing the evil, reconciling clashes and conflicts between the Muslims. We mentioned this as well before, that if you find that two Muslims are fighting, right, then you reconcile between them. right? The ayah says in Surah Al-Hujurat, إنما المؤمنون إخوة فأصلحوا بين أخويكم واتقوا الله لعلكم ترحمون. Indeed, the believers are one brotherhood. The believers are but brothers. So reconcile between your brothers, and fear Allah, so that you may receive the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And striving for the betterment of the community, seeking to make our entire community better. These are all forms of jihad. Someone might say, okay, the physical jihad is not considered jihad al-akbar, rather jihad al-nafs is considered jihad al-akbar. In a way, you can say yes, and in a way, you can say no, right? The way you can say yes is, I need to fight with my own desires so that I can overcome all of that and become the best version of myself. Then I can go for the jihad al-akbar. Physically, the best or the big jihad is to actually go and fight in the sake of Allah. It is, of course, right? But myself spiritually, the jihad al-akbar for me is myself to maintain my nasiha, my sincerity, my taqwa, my iman, my ihsan, my islam, right? Myself, this is my jihad al-akbar. But then on a societal scale, you might find if there is a Muslim state or an Islamic state, and there are people that are committing oppressions and dhulm and things like that, the entire Muslim state, the responsibility is to go and fight them, yes. So this will be then al-jihad al-akbar, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. I hope we can understand the differences there. When we don't deny the jihad, the physical jihad, right? And even if you consider the physical jihad, the objective of that is not to just go and kill people, right? When we go for any form of jihad, even physical jihad, right? The army goes in front of the tyrants, in front of the people that oppress others, in front of those that don't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His messenger. Then the first step is not to just go straight away in the middle of the night and fight them. No, it is to have a dialogue with them, to send messengers and emissaries to them and say, look, this is the message. And if you don't follow this message, then this is what will happen to you. If you are oppressing the people and continue to oppress the people, then we will have to come and fix this. You won't be able to take care of your own population, then we will have to come and do the job for you, right? To send them this message, to give them this da'wah. And if they deny or if they refuse, right, and then the army will come and they will engage in the battle. The objective of jihad is to i'la kalimatillah, to make the word of Allah the highest, to make sure that people understand that the word of Allah is the highest. Either, as we said, by accepting Islam, right? If they accept Islam, then they are safe. Yeah, we said if they accept Islam, if they do their prayers, if they give their zakah, then they are safe. They're not to be killed. They're not to be touched. They are safe. Their wealth is safe as well, right? Or they remain in their own religion and they pay the jizya to the Muslims, right? The Jews and the Christians, they were given this privilege where they can live in the Muslim lands, safe and sound, as equal citizens with the Muslims, right? Equal in some sense and not the others, equal, not equal, of course, in terms of taqwa and in terms of all of that. We're not going to go into that too much in depth, but they will be citizens of the land just like the Muslims are. They will enjoy the same benefits that the Muslims do. If someone comes to attack, the Muslim will be defended and the non-Muslim will also be defended, right? If there wouldn't be like one street, one road for the Muslims, and it's paved nicely and it's maintained properly, and a broken pothole road for the non-Muslims. No, the areas where the non-Muslims live will also be maintained by the Muslim state, just as the areas where the Muslims live, for example. Right, and of course, if they live together in neighboring buildings, this is even fine as well. Subhanallah bihamdi. Their religious buildings, churches, synagogues, they won't be destroyed by the Muslim leaders. Subhanallah bihamdi. Right? So these are all rights that the non-Muslims enjoy in the Muslim lands. They pay the jizya, right? As we said, the Muslims, they pay their zakah, right? And the non-Muslims, they would pay the jizya and they would live, in the Muslim lands, and they would worship, their own religion, however they worship, right? What they wouldn't do is we wouldn't, allow them to be giving da'wah to their religion. Right? This is something we would not allow, because this goes against the teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that inna ad-deena inda Allahi al-Islam, that the only religion acceptable to Allah is Islam. So we don't allow them or encourage them to be calling people to their religion, right? This is something that would not be allowed. And of course, there are other things that are not allowed, like openly selling alcohol and pork and things like this, or even secretly selling them. But if they have their own foods that they are eating that the Muslims do not eat, then we leave that to them. But they do it secretly. They do it, out of the public eye and things like that. There are a few rulings like this. Like they might be having their holy books that they are selling, but they wouldn't do it out in front. But they would need to go to a place and get it from there without being in the eye of the public. Things like this. These are rulings that apply to the Islamic State. Of course, at the moment, we are in UK or the West. We don't have an Islamic State like that. So, as we said, the rulings don't apply like this in this manner to us at the present time. And of course, the discussion about the meaning of jihad is ongoing. It will continue until the end of times, right? Jihad here, I've put here, it's not holy war, right? Some people, they say, as soon as you hear the word jihad, oh, that means the Muslims are going to fight the non-Muslims, the holy war, right? It's not only, a fight like that. It means a struggle, right? Jahada, yujahidu, jihadan. It comes from the word struggle, to have a struggle, right? It is the struggle of truth against falsehood. If, as we said, people are being oppressed and there is an Islamic State that can do something about it, then they will go for the physical jihad, yes, right? But as we said, it can refer to the struggle of an individual against yourself, or you could be speaking a word of truth in front of a zalim and in front of a tyrant. It could mean actual physical defense. Someone came into my house, I defend my house. Someone came into my country, I defend my country. Or it could be a battle that occurs on the battlefield. And of course, we have to understand that jihad is a central concept of Islam. If we deny jihad, then we cannot be, a proper Muslim. But it needs to be understood correctly in a balanced, truthful, and a sincere way. If we maintain nasiha as well with this jihad, right, because it is a part of Islam, then we will, not, fall prey to, people when they come, the non-Muslims especially. You will find that they come and say, oh, you're calling for jihad, you're a terrorist, right? But if we, as we said, understand it correctly in a balanced way, in a truthful way, then even if I say that, oh, I'm, for jihad, then it won't be seen as something controversial. Once you explain it properly, once it is understood, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we will be able to understand that clearly. What can we benefit from this hadith? And we're going to conclude with this, inshallah. So if there are any questions, do think of them and you can put them in the chat, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So we ourselves need to understand ourselves, our own nafs, so that we can understand Islam. If we don't understand our own inner workings, right, we won't be able to understand Islam inwardly, our ikhlas, how we give nasiha, and so on and so forth, right? And then when we talk about the concept of jihad, we shouldn't just talk about the common understanding that people think that straight away to go and fight, the people who are Muslim and something like that. Yes, it is included in that, but we shouldn't get emotional about it. If someone else mentions that, let me think of it rationally, stop, think for a second, and then explain it properly. And if I am not qualified to explain it, by the way, let me not jump into the conversation and make things worse, inshallah. And when we discuss the concept of jihad, we have to resolve the conflicts that exist within ourselves first and foremost, before the conflicts that we see externally. We find conflicts between the reality and between the ideal situation. What is the ideal situation? It is a world in which every single person, they worship Allah. They are a Muslim. Every single person all around the world. This is the ideal situation. And if someone comes to me and says, is that what you wish, for all the non-Muslims to become Muslims? I would say, yes, exactly what I wish. Right? All of these secular ideas and ideologies and concepts, we want all of that to be, wiped out, and the word of Allah to be the highest. This is what we want, right? But that doesn't mean that we want to kill all of the non-Muslims. No, of course not, right? If they become Muslim, it's better for us. But if they want to worship their own religion, or lack of religion or whatever, at the moment, especially the way the country we live in, and this is not feasible to say everyone must become Muslim, and no. And even if there was this chance of I can force everyone to become Muslim, do I do that? Forcibly making someone Muslim, is that something from Islam? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, La ikraha fid din. There is no compulsion in religion. If they accept it, let them accept it from their own self because they want to become a Muslim. So how do I do that? Through my da'wah, through my engagement, through my character, through showing them Islam is the best, Islam is the way, showing them how their religion or their lack of religion, cannot be correct, the flaws in their logic, and so on and so forth, until they become Muslim, until they accept Islam, because they themselves want to be submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not being forced. Okay, so we need to bridge these gaps between the ideal situation and the real world. The real world we see. If I tell an atheist, you must become Muslim, otherwise you'll be killed. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Especially how we, are right now, the society that we live in, right? Even in the Muslim society, if we don't do that, how can we do that right now where we are? To resolve these conflicts, we need psychological adjustments ourselves. So we need to understand that my giving da'wah is a part of me, part of my Islam. It is essential, right? And social adjustments as well are there, that let me show my Islam to the people and let them come and then let them see me how I am. So I shouldn't try to shy away and to say, oh, look, the Muslims, we're going to worship Allah in our mosque when you come out. We're going to be dressed like the non-Muslims. We're going to look like them, talk like them, and all of that. No. By the way, I'm not saying to look like them and to dress like them is haram or anything like this, but to maintain your identity is also something that is quite important, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So we live in a society that is corrupted, right? But still, we need to and we must maintain our values, try to do something we can to improve the situation. Okay. Otherwise, without these adjustments that we want to make, we may end up confronting, being aggressive, unable to live this life that we have, this modern life. We might even reject our own values, right? Maybe I won't, but the next generation, my children, they definitely will, right? Even if they don't and they somehow maintain half and half, the next generation will be wiped out after them, right? Both of these extremes are not acceptable. To completely say I'm going to be secluded from everyone else and not take anything from them, or to say I'm going to embrace everything that they give me completely and totally, right? Both of those is not acceptable. We need to maintain a balanced life, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Sirat al-Mustaqim, right? Balanced, a middle path. What we need is assertiveness, right? We don't need dominance, right? Assertiveness, there's a slight difference here. Dominance is when I make someone do something, whether they want to or not. Assertiveness is, no, I will do this, whether you like it or not. And if you want to join me because of these reasons, X, Y, and Z, then you can join me, but I will do it. You can't stop me. You can't prevent me from that. I will worship how I want to worship. You do whatever you want to worship. لا أعبد ما تعبدون ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد. You will not worship what I worship. I will not worship what you worship. We stay separate, and I will maintain this, that this is the truth, this is right, and you do whatever you want to do. And if you believed in this, it is even better for you. Something like that, inshallah. We need to determine how we can live in this life, the modern world, as a good Muslim, but we need to maintain our identity, our morals as well. That if they say, oh, we should allow men to marry men and women to marry women, or we should allow people to change their genders and so on and so forth, we say, no, you want to do that, you go ahead and do that. But me, I will stick to my principles. I will not allow that. I will not stand for that. And if you say I have to support it, no, I will not support it. Right? That doesn't mean I'm going to go and start, hitting and being violent towards those that do it. They can do that themselves, as long as they keep it within themselves and not try to push this message to everyone else. Right? Let them do whatever they want to do. But as soon as you say, no, we need to teach everyone about it, and so you say, no, 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 hold on a minute. Right? We will keep our values. We will teach ourselves, our own, youngsters, our own children, our own values. Right? You want to teach them to the ones that want to accept it, not to everyone. They shouldn't be forced to accept these values. So on and so forth. Of course, I'm referring to the LGBTQ, and there's so many other letters nowadays. You can have some people refer to it as the alphabet soup and things. There's no need to even go into that, right? Even when you talk about that, we need to respect that. Now you're going to say to me, how can you respect these people? Wallahi, we don't mean that we respect their ideas at all. We do not, right? Rather, we hate it from the bottom of our hearts, because Allah and His Messenger, they hate it, we hate it as well. What we mean by respect is if I then start to swear at them and talk to them, badly about this, they say, oh, you are this and you are that, and calling them names, what will happen? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself in the Quran says, right, don't swear at their gods. If you consider this LGBTQ concept, it's become like their God. They follow that and nothing, they don't understand anything else. So if you curse that, then the ayah in the Quran says that do not curse their gods, because they might curse Allah in return. Don't they swear at Allah? Wallahi, they do. Don't they swear at the Prophet ﷺ? Wallahi, they do. So if we act like this as well, we say, oh, you are like this, and you are this and that, calling them names. So they too will swear at us, swear at Allah, swear at the Prophet ﷺ. So we may maintain respect, we speak respectfully with them. We say, yes, this is a concept that you have, an idea that you have. It is false, so it is not allowed because of X, Y, and Z. And we explain all of that nicely, gently, and we don't start swearing at them. We don't show this bad character, because the Muslims, we must maintain this good character, husn al-khuluq, in everything that we do. Ud'u ila sabili rabbik, call to the path of your Lord, bil hikmah, with wisdom, wal maw'idat al-hasana, and good character, good example. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for tawfiq. So we need this social psychological adjustment. As a society, if you can adjust our entire selves, our own psyches, our own psychologies, then you will find that we are able to, if we consider that we are, the lesser of society. For example, in the West, the Muslims, they are the lesser percentage. In UK, about 6% of the Muslims, right? It's not even 10%, subhanallah. So if we adjust our psychology, rather than being like, oh, we're always the lower class, or we're always like seen, looked down upon, we should consider ourselves. We have pride in our Islam. Islam is what brings us above everyone else in the world, right? The best of you is the one who has more taqwa, right? So if we have more taqwa than the people who are not Muslim, we have, all the taqwa, they have none. So then we are the best. Let us be the best. Let us be the best example to them as well, right? And this is one of the greatest jihads that we can face today. We must maintain our identity, our morals. Bit by bit, the Christians, what have they done? They have sold their morals one by one by one by one. Now they allow legal marriage in the church, so on and so forth. There are some masajid in the West, America, UK, that allow this as well. But we stand firm against this. We say, no, we're not going to, we're not going to dilute our morals. We're not going to sell any of our morals. We have our morals, our ethics defined to us not by people, not by society, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rabbul Izzati wal Jalal. We need to be able to implement the concepts of Iman, of taqwa, of ihsan, of Islam in our lives, right? When we face all of these difficult challenges. I hope that we can take some benefit from this. We can understand all of this, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Let us see what questions that we have. Someone has asked, can you pray in a prayer mat with the picture of the Kaaba? If you're not worshipping the Kaaba, and if it's not distracting you, as someone else has mentioned, then yes, it is possible, inshallah, you can pray. Based on hadith number 7 regarding nasiha, how would you advise regarding riba and buying property in non-Muslim lands in light of increasing rentals? Are there any halal investors or investments, and who best to ask? Okay, so best to ask the local Imam or the local scholars, because they will be more in tune with if there are any local services or anything like that available. One thing we can do is, as a society, we said if we change the psychology of the society, right, this is something that is going to help us. As a society, if we say all of us, we're going to gather, we're going to each of us take £10,000 or $10,000, whatever it might be, and we're going to put it into a pot, and then we're going to buy someone a house from this. Yeah, this is something that is possible, right? And then once they have eventually they have paid off, they're going to be paying off the people back individually, something like that, right? Or it could be that this collective kind of Baitul Mal kind of pot, something like that. And then of course you need to set up a proper organization or a charity or a community organization, something like this, to deal with this and go through the proper legal channels and things like this. This is something that it differs from place to place, from time to, even from town to town. Even in England, from town to town, it would differ, right? There are some facilities. If you're talking about UK, Way Home is one of those. Then there is subhanallah bihamdi. The rest of them, they're not coming to mind, but there are a few Islamic, completely Sharia compliant sort of mortgage brokers or mortgage firms. So explore that, inshallah. How do you advise regarding riba? If I was advising someone else, right, I would look for the best way to advise them. But if someone wants to buy a property, right, I would tell them you can't get involved in riba at all, right? Why is this? You want to wage war against Allah? That's it. I don't have to say anything else, right? If you say yes to this question, go and do whatever you want to do, right? But if you do not want to wage war against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then stay away from it. Wallahi, it's that simple, right? You're going to say, oh, but my rent is higher, and I am renting my own house, right? And I have to pay, and I'm struggling, and we have to maintain that. Why? Because we don't want to be fighting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly. Right, on Yawm al-Qiyamah, how will we answer in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And it's something my father has taught me since we were younger. He's saying, look, if we have to rent our entire lives, we'll rent our entire lives, right? And I'm trying my best to advise in the same manner that if you want to fight Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, go ahead and fight. This is your business. But if you fear Allah, then do not get involved with mortgages that involve interest and things like that, or even something that tries to go around it with a different name, but at the end of the day, it is still interest involved there. The next question comes. I hope that I can answer that properly. Barakallahu feekum. Wallahu a'lam. Can we follow the Imam with a Quran during the Taraweeh prayer? It is better not to do so. Even the scholars that have allowed you to recite from the Quran, they have said that this is in your own nafil prayers. In your own nafil prayers, you recite with the Quran and you just recite as much as you can. You want to recite from the Quran, you haven't memorized the Quran, so hold the Quran and you recite. Or even hold the phone and you recite from the Quran on the Quran app. But during the Taraweeh, the Imam, he knows what he's reciting, and he has people behind him that are correcting him if he makes a mistake. So no, you shouldn't be using a Quran, reciting from the Quran during the Taraweeh. The Shafi'i madhab is the one that has allowed to hold the Quran during the Nafil, by the way. Some of our local imams are advising that you can buy a house and have a mortgage. Again, as we said, speak to your local imams. But again, some of them might be advising due to necessity and due to people's individuals' circumstances. So again, this is something that you will have to speak to them about, and you know, uh, don't just speak to the local imam as in say, okay, where do you get your fatwa from? Are you qualified to make this fatwa in the first place? You need to go to someone that is qualified, and not just they've studied a few years in the Darul Ulum and they've graduated and then they are giving fatwa. This is not allowed in this manner, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. This is my understanding of this issue. Sisters asking, Assalamu alaikum, alaikum salam. Can the PDF of the hadith be sent before the class so that you can print it and make notes next to the text? I think what you can do, I will try to source a copy of the 40 hadith, the entire 40 hadith book, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. It doesn't have the explanations in it, but if I can maybe get that, if I can find that with the translation, maybe I will be able to send that through, inshallah. And of course, the PDF, I will send it through. Inshallah. I will allow a couple more minutes if there are any other questions, and if not, then we will conclude bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. No. So just waiting if there is anything else. The issue of the mortgages, subhanallah bihamdi, it is quite a sensitive topic, by the way, because it refers to a place where someone lives in, right? And you're telling someone, no, you need to leave your house. And no, we're not saying this, by the way. If someone has already bought their house with interest and something like this, they should try their best to get out of it in whichever way possible. If it's from getting loans from other people and paying off the mortgage so that they can pay these people without interest, something like that, right? Or if it is downsizing to a smaller house and struggling for a little bit, something like this, this is something that they should try to do to safeguard their iman in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so they are safe, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. But again, it's much more detailed, much more nuanced conversation. This is not the only thing. If you can Google Sheikh Salman Hassan, he has a company that also does Islamic mortgage. He is a very, very learned alim in the finance world. He has studied Islamic finance at Al-Azhar University and so on. And then his whole career is based on finance. So he has started a company, another company. I forgot the name of it. That's why it's not coming to mind. But Sheikh Salman Hassan, if you Google his name, you'll find the company that he's involved with. He's a Sharia advisor for them, and he's involved in the company as well. So that's something else for the sisters who are asking about the mortgages. Barakallahu feekum. Thank you for all the well wishes. Jazakumullah khairan. Two questions are left. Inshallah, we will conclude. Will this class continue after this weekend? I want to continue the class, inshallah. So they will request for the organizers to make a schedule for us to continue this. But next weekend, we don't have a class. And this class, it ends here, actually. But we will try to carry on so we can do complete the 40 hadith bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, maybe even once a week instead of twice a week or something. I will try to give my time as much as we can, and I will ask the organizers to facilitate bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. May Allah bless all of you. Wa alaikum salam. Should we give the fitra money for food? Or should we give the fitra money or food? Jazakumullah khairan. Okay, better to give the fitra as food, because this is how Rasulullah he gave it. 2.5 kilograms of dates, like this is 1 sa'. Okay, or it can be rice or wheat or whatever barley, whatever food is in this country or in that country that you're giving, the food stuff of that country. So it could be dal, it could be onions and things like that, right? So 2.5 kilograms worth. This is the fitra. But if you are somewhere where you cannot give the food, then you can give the money. In UK, I'm recommending myself, so it depends again on where you are and the cost and everything like that. Where I am in In UK, I recommend for the local musallis £7 per person for the fitrah, including the baby in the womb of the mother should also be paying the fitrah. So the parents should be paying the fitrah on the behalf of the babies and the children as well. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Fitrah, who should give it? It should be everyone that has enough food for that day. Even if they are poor, they should still give the fitrah, subhanAllah. €9 sounds about right, sounds correct, inshallah, for the people, brothers and sisters in Europe, inshallah. Uh, Mazaya Real Estate, that might be another company. I haven't heard of them, but if it's another Sharia compliant company, it's something to explore. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you for your help. There is last question. It's related to the fitrah, and of course, Eid is coming. When I'm divorced, who give it? You should give it yourself, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Yourself. If you have some sort of income as well, then this is better for you to give it yourself. Inshallah. The company of Sheikh Salman Hassan Mazaya, it's not Mazaya as far as I, maybe he's opened another one. It could be Allahu Alam, but no, I don't think that's the name that I knew. There was another name for it. But the pregnant woman, yes, they do pay the fitrah as well. The name of the person I recommended, some of the other people are putting the name there, Sheikh Salman Hassan, right? So you'll be able to see. Maybe I can quickly Google it as we are just at the end of the class, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, just so we can help people. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. He's on the board of BBSR, the British Board of Scholars and Imams as well. I am not finding it at the moment. Inshallah, I might be able to send it to the. No, this is a different Sheikh Salman Hassan in Doha, in Qatar. The Mazaya Real Estate is in Qatar. It's not in UK. Khair, I will ask the admin, inshallah, to post it on the chat. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. I did say last question, inshallah, but whatever is there is Mawlid Bid'ah. The last question, inshallah, yes, we would consider it is. Do we need to message the admin to request continuation? If you do, this will support our course, inshallah, our cause. So you can, of course, message the admin, inshallah. But for now, let us end here. We end by saying Subhanakallahumma bihamdik nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.